You're going to see not only conferences, but also schools. Anything that they can sell naming rights to, they're selling naming rights to. Every single venue is going to have a name. Every single, floor, court, field, track, tennis court, every single, they're all going to have names. They're all going to be sponsored.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and with us today on this Throwdown Thursday edition, our favorite team leader, Mike King. Mike, how are you, sir?
Doing well.
All right, academic and athletic consultant for the CKSA Project and baseball fan, George Hockett. George, how are you, man?
I'm good. We're just sitting here waiting for these Tar Heels to come on today so we can see if they can get a second win to get to that last round of the College World Series.
Okay, and our favorite administrator also watches the College World Series, Robert Abney. How are you, sir?
As always, sir, I'm living the dream. I'm over here exploring naming rights for the podcast. So, could be interesting.
And in segment one, we will talk about athletics in terms of this changing time. Segment two, we will bring up naming rights. And in segment three, we just hope to make this thing happen, guys. It's a lot of talk about money and different streams and revenues. But first, it's all fun and games until somebody gets poked in the eye. Iowa State's in the Big 12. They have an outstanding athletic history, but they're going to have trouble navigating this new world. And we're going to look at Iowa State from the lens of there's a lot of schools like Iowa State that's going to have these problems. Iowa State's AD, Jamie Pollard, discussed what this is looking like at Iowa State. We're not just going to be able at a school like Iowa State to fund 18 sports at the highest level. We're going to have to be selective, and we're going to really have to make some tough choices. George, as the most recent athletic director in this panel, can you tell our fans what that really means?
Yeah, that means that you have a budget each year, and that budget is only encompasses you can only do but so much. In a lot of situations, you got to pay Peter to rob Peter to pay Paul in these situations. I know people are going to hate to hear this, but I'm gonna give you bare bones. If you have a football program and your football program is not successful, it's going to drag all your other sports down because it's the highest money maker. Okay, certain sports make more money, and I was reading this, and I can sit here and understanding what he's talking about and going through, but what it's going to do, it's going to cause some ADs to be more innovative because they're going to have to find other streams of revenue. And we'll talk about that later. But if your big sports don't do well monetarily, it affects the entire program as a whole. So that's where they are. That's where Iowa State is. That's where a number of schools are going to be, because scholarships aren't going to just cut it anymore when you got bigger programs who can pay the better athletes money, which means you can't pay, and some athletes are not going to come. So we knew this was coming. We could see it in the horizon. Just how's the remedy going to be? And that's one thing they're going to have to really sit down and talk about.
All right, so this is where we've come to, and Robert, I'm going to go to you first. Division I schools have to find $20 million annually forever now, and that number is not going to go down. It's only going to go up. The Big 12 is looking to have sponsorship, and maybe they can remember that there's 16 teams in the Big 12, and let's not mention the Big 10. In addition, Conference USA is also looking for sponsorship. Robert, you're our administrator. This has come across your desk. What are your thoughts on conference sponsorship in terms of trying to cut this extra $20 million you got to find?
Well, as I said, we're exploring naming rights for the podcast as well. I've just got an email from Metamucil, so
We'll take anybody's.
we will take your money. In all seriousness, in order to be a FBS Division One NCAA member, you must have 16 sports.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. FCS, or which is the championship subdivision for football, you must have a minimum of 14 sports. Okay. So I think what Iowa State is talking about in terms of we're going to have to make some decisions. I mean, there is going to be a lot of decision making, and part of that decision making is probably going to entail, rather than having 18 sports, schools are going to have 16 sports. They're going to have a minimum. They're going to be at the minimum simply because they can't afford to do anything else. What that probably means in the long run is that the Olympic sports are going to suffer, especially the men's Olympic sports, because you still have Title IX considerations that are not going to go away. And so it's going to be really interesting to see what that looks like. Men's a couple of the sports that may be on the chopping block, maybe men's wrestling. I don't know. Maybe men's soccer. Again, I don't know. It just really, schools are going to have to navigate this new landscape. Naming rights, I think, is going to be a big part of it. You're going to see not only conferences, but also schools. Anything that they can sell naming rights to, they're selling naming rights to. Every single venue is going to have a name. Every single, floor, court, field, track, tennis court, every single, they're all going to have names. They're all going to be sponsored, because that's the landscape we're in now.
All right. So
Keith, I think, and that'll wind up, and this is what I was talking about earlier, that you're going to have to find new resources to find the money. I think you're going to start getting the patches on the uniforms and stuff. But I think what I was talking about earlier was that they're going to start experimenting and find out what they can and can't put on TV that's going to make money. If you're a sports fanatic and you like sports, certain things you're going to start seeing more other sports on TV, and they're going to see if there's an audience and if they can make money about it. So we're probably going to start getting inundated with a lot of sports that you normally don't see on TV, or whether it's like during the or you usually only get it during championship time or something. So they're going to have to be innovative, man. They're going to have to be innovative.
Well, and last but not least, talking about uniforms, NCAA rules right now, at least in the rule books that I have, do not allow for uniform patches for advertising.
Yeah,
I guarantee you
that's going to change. Yeah, that's more than going to change.
So, Mike, you're a Maryland alum. You're Joe College. You love your school. You're hearing all of this week after week after week. How does that make you feel when we talk about these things from the administrative side, and you just want to support your school?
Well, Maryland had to cut a bunch of athletic programs. That's why they left the ACC to join the Big Ten and get money. And I don't think they brought all those programs back. So what was the money for? It's for the next, all this nonsense that we're going through now. I don't know. College sports to me are seems like every day I dislike them a little bit more just because of all this outside noise. The NCAA has to get the house in order, and I don't think they can. The Pandora's box has been opened, and once the box is opened, it's good luck sealing it. But they have to seal it because they're just going to start losing um, losing the average fan. I think I did something with some of my college friends couple weeks ago. I looked up like a Maryland team from 5 years ago, named some of the players, basketball team. We were all huge basketball fans. We didn't remember half the people. Like it's because they're there for like 6 months and they're gone. Like it's just, and that was before it got. It'll be even worse, 5 years from now. So I don't know. It's sad state of affairs.
It's the old Seinfeld line, right? You're not cheering for players, you're cheering for laundry.
Mm.
He just said the NCAA needs to get their house in order. Really? That's
All
funny.
right. So
That's
with that,
funny.
fans, when we get back, we're going to talk about education. The student athletes are learning more. So as the fortunate ones who get to the next level, they have a little extra knowledge. We'll talk about that in segment 2. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches podcast.
The CKA SAVE Project is an industry leader in advocating for student-athlete academic and athletic needs. Through academic and athletic enrichment, the CKA SAVE Project is on the forefront of the issues facing 21st century student-athletes. As student-athletes continue to struggle to find a better balance between academic and athletic success, the CKA SAVE Project offers academic and athletic services to support student-athlete academic success, including academic skills assessment, academic and athletic consulting, academic monitoring, academic and athletic workshops. For more information or to schedule a free consultation, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches podcast. In segment 2, let's talk about NBA players leading the way with education. Our formal name is the Coach Keith Adams Student Athlete Valuing Education Project, and we've been empowering student athletes since 2009 with educational and professional development. So when I heard this story about NBA players in their locker room and their conversations, I wanted to get our panel's thoughts because more and more players are having conversations about investment opportunities rather than talking about cars and homes. New Orleans Pelicans forward Larry Nance Jr., whose dad, Larry Nance, was also in the league, says it's been pretty drastic as to what guys are comfortable and open talking about in the locker room. And the rise of NIL has really made it important to have these educational conversations because college guys are making as much as $1 million or $2 million a year in college, and bringing that kind of income into the NBA before they even get there. George, what are your thoughts about these NBA guys kind of leading the youngsters and having high-level money conversations?
I think this is a trend that we're probably going to see, or that's probably already happening throughout the league. You know, Mike, Keith and Robert and I are at the age where we went through, and Mike remembers it too, with that whole rash of NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, and hockey players, stars that made great money during their time in the league going bankrupt. And I know that's the horror story that they start preaching out there. So that financial literacy and things like that became a huge topic in locker rooms. Made sense. I mean, people wanted to know, wanted to hold on to their money and have a life for them, because you get that one big contract that they all shoot for, and then you want to make sure that you got everybody taken care of. And plus, I think dudes started looking at what are they going to do once the career is over, because the career is so short, and you get used to certain things. You don't want that to go away. So it made sense. I could see it just continuing, especially since with the amount of money that they make, most of these guys, a lot of them have never been involved in any of these avenues before from where they came from. With the opportunity for people like us, regular people who get a chance to look at the stock market and stuff like that, people are going to come, man, and, they need to be aware of what's going to happen and how it goes. So I see it as an evolution. I see it as something that's just, it will continue on through, especially with NIL and how it's going down. It's going to start a lot earlier. We're going to see like the wide receiver from Miami that was at Utah. What's he going on, year 8 or 9 right now? He's going to be a millionaire when he finally decides to leave college. So yeah, I think it's just the evolution of how the game's going, man.
Mike, I'm going to go to you. You teach these units, and oftentimes you're the first person to have that conversation with a high school student. What do you think about the direction that the NBA is going in terms of just having these regular conversations with folks in the locker room?
Well, I think that's great. You learn from talking to other people who have done it before, who have experience, but I think all the leagues have also done a good job of, for rookies, having those like people come in and speak. And, that's been something that's been going on that we also could kind of be seeing kind of the fruit of that labor when there were players that were going bankrupt, making hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars and having nothing. But yeah, NIL is great in this regard. It's like a practice run. I've got this money. Oh, I had it for 2 years in college. I got nothing right now. I'm in the league now. I better put that money aside. Like you get to learn. You get like almost a free, like it's like a board game. It's like Monopoly. You get to go almost bankrupt, and now I'm not gonna do that again. So it's kind of real time learning. So yeah, from that perspective, or I made some successful investments. I should keep doing things like that. Either way, it's a positive or negative. It's a lesson learned that better now than 10 years into a career, and now I can't fix that fix the mistakes that I learned from that lesson. So yeah, it's when we think of NIL, there's a lot of bad to think about. That would be the good.
Okay, so Robert, most guys aren't going to make the league. Most gals aren't going to make the league. They're going to have an opportunity to make money. What can we do, in your opinion, to help that, not from the professional locker room, but prior to this even happening, because there's states that are now allowing high school student athletes to make money through NIL. What do you think?
Well, I think there are a couple of things. Number one, given high school kids that amount of money, that's just a terrible decision. I mean, it's only marginally better with college kids. So it's incumbent upon us, right, to make sure that we're teaching them something. If the states that have NIL in place for high school, if financial literacy is not a mandatory course in their high schools, that's criminal. That is absolutely criminal. You got to at least have that in place. It would not shock me if a lot of these schools actually start to plan, and as part of their education of their incoming athletes, maybe even part of their athletic staff, maybe you have a financial planner on staff to help these guys, to have conversations with them about their NIL money and what they should be doing with that and how they should be taking care of it. That may be something that schools actually see as an advantage going forward, when they, that they're able to tell incoming recruits, hey, not only are we taking care of you from an NIL perspective, in terms of the amount of money you get, we're also teaching you how to take care of yourself and take care of your family for the future. I could see that happening. But as we've said so many times, that Pandora's box is wide open. It doesn't, that we're not even close to getting that box closed. We're not even close. There is so much. Every week something new happens that I'm just like, didn't think of that. That was not on my bingo card.
No.
So we'll see what happens.
All right. So when we get back, fans, in segment 3, we're going to talk about the unintended consequences of all of these conversations as we get ready for college football. We'll be right back on the Our Coaches Podcast.
The reviews are in for Dr. Keith Adams' book, Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. College professor and student athlete academic expert Dr. Lisa Rubin said, "There is nothing out there like this book, so I do hope people will pay attention and give it a read." Former George Mason standout Fowler Campbell said, "Consider this book an opportunity to work directly with Dr. Adams just like I did. I assure you that there will be something you can take away that will be useful to you throughout your personal journey." Ryan Waite, a recent college graduate who is a software engineer, said, "I like how the book is based on research, which makes it good for general students as well as student athletes." The book serves as both a memoir to Dr. Adams' 30-year academic and athletic career, as well as an instructional guide to assist student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators navigate through the challenges of finding a better balance between academic and athletic success. The book includes over 15 personal stories and anecdotes from Dr. Adams, along with numerous former players and colleagues from a variety of sports and endeavors. You can order your copy at www.ckasaveproject.org. From the main page, simply click CKA Save Project Services and order the Find the Balance book. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the iCoaches podcast. In segment 3, there's some unintended consequences to all of this money talk. Let's talk about 2 in particular. Egg on your face. Ole Miss's AD, Keith Carter, talked about moving the Egg Bowl to Black Friday instead of the traditional Thanksgiving Day game that they've had. In that negotiation, ABC came to him and said, "We want this date and we want to play at this time, and we have little to no negotiating power, so the Egg Bowl may be changed." And then the Celebration Bowl is being moved by ESPN to December 14th. The SWAC said in a statement that from the Southwestern Athletic Conference perspective, participation in the Celebration Bowl the week following our championship game will pose some challenges. But again, if you want the game on TV, you've got to have that game on TV. George, is there anything sacred anymore, or the almighty dollar is running everything?
Did you just really ask that question?
It's rhetorical.
Oh, yeah, I know it is, because you know damn well. I mean, it's been doing it with college sports for the past, right now, we're looking at a 15-year period of growth where it has changed the entire landscape and will continue to evolve until they find some way to get some regulation or something around it. It's the Wild West right now, man. I mean, and you have to have people in charge of your program or your school that are quick-witted, adaptive, and can see beyond the trees. Because if you can't, you're going to be left in the dirt, and it's going to cost your program in the long run. There's huge moves, and it's crazy because the trickle of money has come all the way down. We barely even cared about the SWAC Bowl. I mean, the Celebration Bowl. There was a group of us that did, and it wasn't on the national radar. But now that the landscape changed, you get Dion to go to Jackson State or whatever, and people are like, "Oh, wait a minute, there might be some NFL talent here. I'd like to see it." And our love of football, and especially college football, has driven us to all planes and everywhere else. So yeah, it makes sense, man. You just got to be ready to adapt and keep going. Got to be like the Marines, adapt and keep it moving, man. Because you got to find a way to adapt and overcome. Because every AD is going to have to be in that boat and be ready to do it.
All right. So Robert talked about this in segment 1. I want to go back to him with more information for you fans. NCAA President Charlie Baker says the idea of uniform patches had not been proposed internally, and there's a lot of consequences with that. However, AAC Commissioner Tim Pernetti says when it comes to finding new revenue stream, nothing is off the table. We started with finding money, Robert. We're ending with finding money. What do you think about the uniform patch being used to garner revenue?
Well, while we were having that discussion, I got a second email. There's a brand of compression socks that may be interested in sponsoring the Odd Coaches podcast as well. I mean, that's what's coming. That's what's coming, and it wouldn't shock. And seeing that commissioner talking about, okay, we're going to have a conference wide patch. Okay, so you got one conference wide ad, and then you got another ad that's specific to the school, and maybe on the back you got another ad that's specific to that sport. If this is the way the game is going to be played, people are going to have to adapt and figure out the rules rather quickly so they aren't left behind.
I'd say, I'll tell you, and we were talking earlier, you will see those conferences that are worried, or those schools that are worried, especially AAC is the perfect example. There you got a thinking forward, a bunch of ADs right there looking at other avenues, because they know they cannot mess with the big boys when it comes to generating revenue. So they're looking at other avenues to do it so they can stay competitive. So, hey, man, you're going to see a whole lot of stuff happen, or thrown up against the wall and see if it sticks kind of deal. And hell, it's going to be interesting.
So, Mike, close us out again. You're our regular guy. This is where we are. What are you thinking, man?
This is football, not football. This isn't soccer in Europe where the jersey is a big Radio Shack ad or whatever. This is, what are we doing? What are we doing? If I'm a company, like if Nike has access to the jerseys and I'm Under Armour or Reebok or anybody, I'm getting a patch, because what patch are you going to see? You're going to see that patch. So that's going to be my first move. I don't want to be the supplier of the uniform. I want to put my patch on your uniform. So if any of these other companies are hearing me right now, give me a cut, because that's a great idea. That's who should be buying every single one of these. Again, Under Armour, put me on every single person's. Nike, go to University of Maryland, get your patch on their jersey. And that's what you should be doing, is planting your flag in your rival competitor. This is all stupid. We all know it's stupid, but whatever. We have no control.
All right. So as we close, this is where we are. Robert, I actually want you to have the last word before we close out, because I need levity too, because this is crazy, man. This is crazy. Robert, take us out of here. How can we make sense of this?
I wish I had something really good to say, but I don't. I don't know. I mean, nobody knows what this is going to look like going forward. Nobody knows. And anymore, I would suggest that, if you want to see, pure sports, that kind of stuff, you're going to need to go watch your Division III schools. You want to see college football the way that it was when the idyllic Saturday September afternoons. Go watch a D3 game somewhere. I mean, because the rest of this it's getting to a point where it's almost unrecognizable as a college venture. Basically, what we have is we have we have the minor leagues of the NFL, the NBA, and so on. That's what we've got.
All right. So on behalf of our cavalcade of stars, I have Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and or watching the Odd Coaches podcast, sponsored by whatever you want to give us money for. And we'll see you on the sidelines. Till next time, take care.
The Odd Coaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.cksaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org. We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram @OddCoaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram @CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram @Coach Franchise, spelled Coach FRANCHIZE. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches Podcast.